Well, I'm at FantasyCon, which this year is in Scotland, and I'm joined by guest of honour, Paul Tremblay. Paul, how has your FantasyCon experience been so far?
Oh, it's been wonderful. Everyone, has been so friendly and accommodating, and it's been just a pleasure to get to hang out with a lot of these writers I've known just online or met them in person like once or twice. But so it's been nice to be able to spend like quality face-to-face time with everybody.
Have you been to Scotland before?
I have not. No, actually my first trip to England was just a year and a half ago. So I mean, this is wonderful that my publisher actively tries to get me over here. I mean,
Yeah.
anytime I can get over here, I will, because I just
Yeah,
love it.
it's fantastic for us. Everyone I've been speaking to over the last couple of days, almost everybody has read A Head Full of Ghosts.
Oh.
I mean, it was such a big splash. But you were a published author for long before that. You've had various ups and downs. What is it? What kind of effect does it have on you for us to have a success like that? And does it affect your writing at all?
Geez, that's a really good question. I mean, for me, honestly, like a Head Full of Ghosts was almost like a sigh of relief because you mentioned the ups and downs. The downs were really right before A Head Full of Ghosts happened or the years prior to it. So just even the act of writing that novel, I felt pretty good about it. And I just felt like relief that, okay, someone wants to publish me again. I'm going to get a second chance. But, the reaction to it is, more than I could have imagined. And, it's just been really, I don't know, it's just been really fulfilling to have people, connect with the book. And as far as its success, can mess with your head.
Yeah.
In the UK, Disappearance of Devil's Rock actually came out like a couple months before.
Right.
A Head Full of Ghosts, but in the States, I wrote Disappearance of Devil's Rock after A Head Full of Ghosts. So that book was the one that like I was really sort of struggling with, like just thinking about A Head Full of Ghosts while I was writing that book.
The weight of expectation.
Yeah, but it wasn't. And at that point, it's kind of weird to say because A Head Full of Ghosts hadn't been published yet. But
Right.
I was just excited off the fact that I got this book deal now, and I think the book is pretty good. And Devil's Rock was much harder for me to write than A Head Full of Ghosts, and sometimes you get in your own head. And
Yeah.
no, I mean, like anyone who experiences like some whatever level of success it might be, you always like put your own internal pressures on. It's a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
I think I managed to overcome it somewhat.
Is there ever a specific moment when you feel like you've arrived or broken through or anything?
No, not for me. Especially being a genre author. If you want to get humbled, all you have to do is go to a mainstream literary convention where no one knows who you are. And if they ask you what you write and you say horror, you just see like the glazed expressions on their faces. So yeah.
So your latest work was to be published was Growing Things. What made you want to follow up your last 3 novels with a short story collection?
Well, one of it was just I had enough stories. It's been a while since I had a collection, and I just wanted to test the waters to see if the bigger publishers would actually want to do a collection, which was, I don't know, which was just really cool to me, to see in the U.S. William Morrow and obviously in the U.K. Titan be willing to do a collection because I know those certainly don't sell as well as novels. But putting the collection together was a lot of fun. I felt like it was a nice break from writing novels. Like, I mean, I enjoy it, but I also felt like I'd done like 3 in a relatively short amount of time for me.
Yeah.
So part of it was honestly just giving myself a little bit of a breather. Most of the stories I'd already written, so I only had to write 2. They were they're lengthy short stories, but there were only 2 that I wrote especially for the collection. I don't know. I thought it was just sort of like a fun. This is where I am after these novels, and some of the stories were written before the novel, some were written during, a few written after. It was kind of fun to put those together and see how they either worked or didn't work with each other.
How do you find going back to writing short stories after writing novels?
So when I first started, it was almost exclusively short stories.
Yeah.
So now that I've been doing novels for so long, I feel actually less confident about going back and doing short stories. They're different things, and they're certainly not easier than novels. They're different. I found that my short stories are now getting longer. When I first started, it used to be like 3,000 to 4,000 words, and now I feel like they're all like 8,000 or more. This is part of the novel. I mean, leaking through maybe.
Yeah. The writing process itself can be quite lonely and isolating. How valuable do you find it to have friends who are horror authors?
Oh, invaluable. I think it helped change my trajectory, and not even from like a networking, not like sort of that cynical approach to it. It's just to be with people who are experiencing the same frustrations and the same joys. It's because, as you mentioned, most of the time, like you're writing by yourself, or most of us have a day job like I do. They couldn't care less about what I do for the most part. So it's I love coming to a convention like this just to be around. I don't know, the people that are my contemporaries, like my comrades, like what we all do the same thing, and I'm always even though I'll be really tired when I go home because I've been staying up late, I'll be totally refreshed and energized, inspired to get back to writing.
As guest of honor, I suppose a lot of people will be seeking advice from you. One thing I wanted to ask is, the publishing, the markets and everything has changed so much over the last 2 decades. If you were starting out now, would it still be your priority to try to get an agent, or do you think you would look about releasing your work in some other way?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, I almost want to break out in hives if I think of having to come out now, because I do think it is so challenging, and some of it I almost feel like some of the challenges are almost like virtual, like not real. What I mean by that is like just the impact of social media, and the pressure that all writers, not even new writers, but just all writers feel by seeing everyone talking about like all their good news and all these things online. I know it just makes people crazy. Like it makes them think, oh my God, I'm not doing enough. I have to get this out there. And maybe they publish a novel that was maybe too early in the process to publish. So I'm happy and fortunate that I sort of came up when I did, because I felt like it was a little bit easier for me to allow myself to be patient. That was one thing I always did with my career. Like I never had any stories. I never gave away any stories for free. Like for me, like I didn't study literature in college, so like my first stories, they were hard to write. I couldn't imagine giving away to someone for no money, even if it was only $10. I would start at the highest paying and just work my way down. So yeah, I mean, it took me 2 years to find an agent, hundreds of rejects, but I just sort of kept at it. But again, this was like, in the first decade of the century, where, publishing changes, like, I feel like every 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I know that the challenges today are difficult, but also at the same time, I mean, I think it's actually a little bit easier to approach agents now. Back when I was doing it, I actually had to print out, or half the submissions were you had to actually write the letter. Not like with a quill or anything, but you had to like print it out. So I feel like hopefully, like I think most of them now accept email, obviously. So you do get more of a quick feedback, and people find agents still. It's hard, but that's the one piece of advice I give is if you can be patient. If you have a day job and you don't need your writing to survive, then you can be patient.
That's great advice. It's obvious from reading your work that you're a massive horror fan. You really wear your references on your sleeve. What excites you at the moment in the world of horror?
Geez, there's so much. Particularly even I would say even in film too. There's a lot of exciting, indie movies. Not what Hollywood puts out, but writing wise. I sort of jokingly reference going to a literary festival and having people react to horror. I do think it's getting better, that you're starting to see horror taken more seriously within the larger culture. But in terms of writers, I mean, there's so many wonderful writers just here at this convention, like Priya Sharma and Tim Levin and Rita Ewers, and obviously, but then you have like Ramsey Campbell and like people that have been around for a long time too, but still doing really exciting and vital work. And in the U.S., my favorite writers include John Langan, Stephen Graham Jones, Nadia Bulkin. So to me, I think we're I want to say finally seeing, because horror has the reputation of being a sort of conservative or reactionary genre. So what I'm excited to see is that there are a lot more diverse approaches and diverse writers writing horror. And to me, that's super exciting.
And what can we expect next from you?
So I just finished a novel fairly recently. It'll be out July 7th. I think that's the day, but early July, next summer. We don't have a title yet.
Okay.
It's being discussed politely. So that book's I would say a little bit of a departure insofar as compared to the 3 novels. There's no supernatural element. This is more of a riff on a zombies or an infected story. It's not like Rise from the Dead zombies. It's people who are sick, like a super rabies virus. So there's that bigger story, but I guess back to what I typically do is focus in on the quieter story within like the wider maelstrom. The story really focuses on 2 characters, and really 4 to 6 hours during this outbreak near Boston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know what it's called,
We don't know yet.
so we can't plug it.
Yeah.
But keep an eye on it. Paul, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.